Hello guys, I'm going to show you guys some little noob things that you guys can learn from, especially if you want to buy a used computer from somebody and you don't know what it is or you don't know how to read specs. You can definitely learn a little bit and learn how to know more about computers and what they have. You can right click on your Windows key right here, and then you can go to system. You can left click on system. Here it will show you a breakdown of what this computer is running. For example, I am running Windows 10 and 22H2 upgrade, and I installed this one on 4/21/21. This doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter when it was installed, but this up here kind of does matter. And for example, I have an AMD Ryzen 9 3900 12 core running at 380 gigahertz, and I have 32 gigs of RAM. So this is a really good computer for gaming. And this is one of the things that you can look at. So I want to close this. Another option is that you can right click on your taskbar and left click on task manager. Here, this stuff doesn't really matter. This is just a lot of stuff that I have running in the background. But what you really want to know is this right here. So for example, this is my rule of thumb. You want your CPU to be running at close to 0 as possible. Mine is running at 4%. I really don't know why, but I can go back to process and I can left click and I can see that the system is already using 1.6. This other little stuff that I have running in the background is also using it, like IQ, NVIDIA. This Torox thing is for my monitor, but that doesn't really matter. So I'm going back to performance. So here my computer is running really well. Again, here it shows my processor. I have a 12 core, but they're split into two, so I literally have 24 processors and I have 12 cores. And shows you little cache specs right here. And here it shows you the threads and everything and how fast it's going right now. And it's at averaging at about 4 to 3%. And of course, this is all on idle. This is what you should really expect when a computer is on idle, when there's nothing else running. So for example, if you buy a used computer for somebody and if you right click and check this is what really you should look at, being close to 0 as possible. Because if in my opinion, if you have something running like 20-30%, more than likely there's probably a virus or something, which you can probably look at the processes, or sometimes the CPU is really slow and it's trying to keep up with all the backgrounds running in the background. So more than likely I probably wouldn't go into it. I'm using about this much, which is fine because Windows 10 is always going to use memory. And here it shows you all the disks. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 disks, and you can see one is a hard disk, SSD, and another one is a USB, and my GPU. I'm not really sure why it's running at 48% right now. It's probably because I am recording. But everything looks pretty good. I have this one at 2080 and it's running pretty good. Another thing I wanted to mention, you really want the hard disk to be close to 0, especially when you pretty much want everything to be close to 0 whenever it's on idle. That's what you really want. So let's say you have your main disk. You want this one to be as close to 0 as possible. And even if you open Internet Explorer and if you see it struggle, If you see it struggle and doing it all weird stuff, then that more than likely that hard disk is an actual disk drive and not an SSD. SSD is usually the way to go. I, for example, have a 1 terabyte SSD in mine, so pretty much everything runs pretty smoothly. Another thing that I also like to check is display settings. You can go to display settings, advanced, and here you can check your resolution on your monitor. Mine is set to 143. Usually they'll be set to 259 hertz, but mine is set to 144. And if you have more than one, it will show here. So if you see that your computer is running pretty slow, you usually can. So if you see your computer is running pretty slow, you can just left click on the folder. This is the way that I go to it. Go to your PC, you right click on your disk drive, left click on properties, and you can usually do disk cleanup. This will kind of clean up a little bit of temporary files that you don't use. And then just hit OK. This will clean up a little bit, and it won't fix everything, but it'll clean up a little bit. You can compress the drive if you want. I have never really noticed a difference on that, but you can do it at your own discretion. I personally like to have one disk drive running my Windows operating system, and this is a backup drive, this is another backup drive, and this is another backup drive, because I'm running out of room. I have my Steam games on this one, my Origin, and I forgot what else I have, so it's pretty big, and I'm getting ready to transfer some more games over to the other ones, but I've just been really lazy lately. Windows 10 is doing pretty good. I know Mac users don't really like, they always complain about Windows, but really Windows has gotten a lot better. So for example, let's see, I think virus protection. Let me see, virus protection. So virus protection is usually always on. It's always going to scan. It's always live. You can always turn it on. It comes turned on automatically, but I like to turn it off. I just don't like it. It blocks stuff that it's not supposed to block. For example, you can go here, you can turn it on. This will always be on. You can turn it off.